everyone, Nyanstar here, and we've finally gotten to middle school. I feel like middle school shaped a lot of who I am, and a lot of the things I talk about will be mentioned in future videos, so I'm a bit excited to make this video. Also, sorry if I sound bad, I was sick the entire last week of April. After graduating from 5th grade, I went to a middle school that was close to my house. Most of my classmates went to a school that was closer to the last, but since I lived far away, I went to a different school than the people I already knew. And the way middle school functioned was very different. In elementary school, I had 1 class, but in middle school, I had 6 classes. The classes I had were English, gym, band, math, social studies, and science, in that order. On Monday, we would go to every class for an hour. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we would go to periods 1, 3, and 5 for 2 hours each. And on Wednesdays and Fridays, it would be periods 2, 4, and 6. Since I was in the gifted program in elementary school, I was placed into gifted English and social studies. There was gifted math, but I wasn't in it because I did regular math the previous year. But enough about schedules, let's talk about the cast. Before we begin, some of the people I mention are trans, so if I see any comments being transphobic, it will be deleted. That shit's not cool and won't be tolerated in my community. And all the pronouns listed are the ones that were used last time I checked, so if anyone I mention sees that I got their pronouns wrong, feel free to let me know. I made 2 best friends this year. First was V, because that was her nickname. I met her on day 1 during gym, and I was drawn to her right away. We were very close, and we ended up dating in high school, before her death. I will be making a whole video about her, so let's move on. The next best friend I made was B, for best friend. They saw me sitting alone at lunch, and decided to sit next to me. That started the strongest friendship in my life. We stopped talking after I dropped out, though. Again, future video. I also met A this year, which stands for asshole. They would turn out to be another best friend relationship that ended up incredibly toxic. But we weren't really close friends until 7th grade. I also met Jeff in my math class. We were good friends, but we were closer in 8th grade, so I'll cover more there. There was another girl I was friends with. We'll call her Liz. Liz knew B and V from elementary school. She also lived down the street from me. Gifted class is where I was closest to people. The small class size really brought us all together. The class was in a portable, and we called it the Nerd Cave. A, B, and V were in the gifted classes with me this year. And the gifted teacher was our favorite teacher. I'll call her Miss R. She was the cool teacher, and she was B's aunt, having married B's uncle, who was also a teacher. While our opinion on her soured over time, she was the best this year. Miss R was missing for the first 2 weeks of school because she had a baby over the summer of 2015. She brought him to class a couple times, and we all got to watch him grow up through middle school. Which is weird because he's older now, and probably doesn't remember any of us. Our social studies class was split between 2 periods. We all had the same first period, but half our class was in 2nd period social studies, and the other was in 5th. V, A, and I were in 5th period, but B was in 2nd. They also had gym for 5th period, so it was switched for us. The 2nd period class kept coming up with songs that got repeated ad nauseum. Speaking of B's classes, we shared a band class. I think I could make a whole video about band class, but I'll mention a few things. Mr. U was the band teacher, and he was animated and fun. He chose the flute for me to play, and I really love playing the flute. I can't afford one, but I still get the itch to play it all the time. B played the saxophone. They even had a silver saxophone that they brought from home. I wanted to play the saxophone, mostly because I really looked up to Lisa Simpson, but my mom wouldn't let me. She said only lesbians play the saxophone. So I played the flute, and I'm bisexual, so suck it, Mom! Back to gifted, we once had an essay project to do. I don't remember what the criteria actually was, but I wrote an essay on Japanese mythology. We had to record all our presentations on iPads, because Miss R was gone on medical leave for a bit. I don't remember anything from the essay itself, but when we watched the videos again in 8th grade, there was a short video of me on the verge of tears because people were talking during my presentation. Miss R also used the iPads that year. We found a video of Miss R pointing the camera at her feet singing, "I have a lovely bunch of coconuts." We quoted this video all the time. We also got scolded when Miss R came back for messing around with the iPads. You gave a bunch of 11-year-olds iPads. What did you expect? It doesn't matter how smart we were 11 and still completed the project. Anyway, as I mentioned, Miss R had to leave for a while for surgery. While she was out, we had a lot of substitute teachers. The sub we had at the beginning of the year was nice, but the subs we got here weren't so great. One time, we were having a quiet study time. V and I had our desks pushed together, and we were writing notes in her notebook. We said a couple things quietly related to the studying, but it was on topic and quietly. But the sub we had was pissed. He started yelling at us for goofing off and kicked us out of class. Let me repeat. He threw us out of class for quietly taking notes. Needless to say, we were very upset. I was crying and V kicked the portable out of rage. When Miss R came back and scolded us, we brought this to her attention. She didn't seem to care very much. She did get mad at us for cheating, though, since I wrote my notes in V's notebook. I tended to get in trouble with adults by accident. Something I never really understood was dress codes. For AFAB students, the rules were always more strict. Like your skirt had to be longer than your fingertips with your hands down, or how much shoulder you're allowed to show. Back in elementary school, I was yelled at for wearing spaghetti straps because it was inappropriate. I was 9 years old and really didn't understand. I still don't really understand. But one dress I had thin straps, not spaghetti straps, so I thought it would be fine to wear. While I was in the library, sitting in the Warrior Cats corner, the librarian came up to me. She angrily told me that my dress was against the dress code. I showed her that my straps were bigger than 2 fingers wide, but she told me it didn't matter. I ended up wearing a jacket for the rest of middle school. I wore the Star Wars jacket my dad got from my mom that she never wore. We also had an advisory period. We didn't have them often, maybe once or twice a month. Basically, we'd have a small class for doing homework, I guess. There was a reason we were supposed to have advisory, but we never did whatever that was. The advisory teacher was also Miss R. It was in this class I met her. There was this girl who was 2 years older than me. She exuded cool energy and got all my references. I crushed on her hard. She protected me from bullies, she introduced me to Undertale. She was fine with me calling her senpai. Hey, I never said I was free of cringe. And by the definition of senpai, I was technically correct. The best kind of correct. I had such a huge crush on her that everyone knew immediately. Just talking about her made me blush. I even got us these gamer heart friendship necklaces, and carved Flowey's face in a bar of soap as a gift. I still have the necklace, and the seahorse keychain she gave me somewhere. I wasn't all that interested in clubs. However, B introduced me to the comic book club, which was run by Miss R. And I was 1000% more interested when I found out my crush was also a member. The goal of the club was to have one completed comic by the end of the year. B and I teamed up and wrote this superhero comic. I actually used Neon Star in it, and I still get nostalgic about it. My crush also wrote a comic, and I was so enamored by her art style. The comic book club was very fun. At the beginning of every meeting, we would recommend a YouTube video for the whole club to watch. I still have a copy of our comic, my crush's comic, and one about FNAF because we had to get 3 comics. I haven't really talked about my other classes. My math class was run by a long-term sub. The teacher we were supposed to have was in cancer treatment, though she did recover and came back to teach the next year. We loved our sub so much that when she even suggested that she might not teach the whole year, we got really upset. She was very nice and had a no-pressure policy for homework. She once said, if you don't know the answer to a question, you can skip it and I won't punish you. I got confused and ended up turning in a paper of only question marks. Yeah, I got a 0 on that. It was this class where I met Jeff, and we were close since the other kids didn't like us very much. We'd huddle together and listen to Oingo Boingo during free time. On the first day, I sat at a table with 2 other girls. One left the class, and she went out the door labeled "Don't exit through here." I pointed this out to the girl still at the table, and she gave me the dirtiest, hateful glare. I wasn't liked very much by kids in other classes either. I was bullied frequently in gym class. V was also bullied heavily in gym, but luckily we had each other. I was always pushed to the ground for not being fast enough when I did grapevines. V was always mocked, but I think people were a little scared of her after she chased a guy down with her shoe. What a girl boss moment! Science was also very rough. I didn't have any friends in this class. I sat at a table near the front, surrounded by kids who hated me. Like when I was made fun of for misspelling science. But when I double-checked later, I spelled it right. I spelled science right. Then fix it. No, I spelled it right. Who cares? Boy, I nearly snapped right there. I care. You're the one who mocked me for it. There was also this girl who was very rude to me. Like when she dropped her pencil and I picked it up for her, and she recoiled and told me she wouldn't touch anything I touched, even though she was always trying to steal my supplies. And she also let other people pick up her stuff. We had this, social media site for school, and I vented about being bullied in the science class group. The teacher deleted the comment and pulled me out of class to talk to a counselor. I told her what happened, and she ended up taking the other girl's side and told us to get along, because the bully girl cried and I didn't. I did not stop being bullied, if you were wondering. And that's all for now. The year ended, and I couldn't have been happier that I made 2 solid friendships. Liz and I had a falling out, and both her and Jeff moved to a different school for the next year. Join me next time for 7th grade, and hit subscribe if you want to know when that comes out. Be kind to each other. Bye!